The Morning Majority on 630.
WMAL.
637 on WMAL. Neiman, Ham, Wilson. Jimmy Pethokoukis is on the line from Reuters and CNBC. Jimmy, we're going to get into the president's jobs bill that he's going to apparently release today. But I did want to ask you, we were just having a conversation about Rick Perry's comment that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Mitt Romney came out against it last week. And now Michele Bachmann, at least a spokesperson for Michele Bachmann, said Bernie Madoff deals with Ponzi schemes, not the grandparents of America. I want to get your take on whether or not Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I think what the best way to describe it is it's an unsustainable retirement/pension program. It's not sustainable without major changes.
Right.
What I want to know is, what are the changes that the various candidates want to do? Does Rick Perry want a completely different system, some sort of, personal account system?
Mm-hmm.
Does he just want to, change the retirement age and maybe change how benefits are calculated? That's what I want to know is, fine. I think actually all the candidates agree that the system in its current form needs to be changed. But what are those changes? That I don't know yet.
Right. Does Perry in his book apparently talked about how Social Security was a bad idea from the get-go, but just from the politics of it all, he's going to have to come up with a plan at least, or some kind of strong idea of where he wants to go with Social Security in order to win an election, isn't he?
Right. Right. I mean that was the missing part.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
of that debate. I know. Romney is actually very vague in his economic plan about what he wants to do about Social Security. But typically, what Republicans have, since they've been, they tend not to promote the personal accounts idea as much. And what they focus on is, we need to raise the retirement age and change how benefits are calculated. That's usually the formula. Is Perry going to have the same formula, or is it going to be something completely different? Is he going to say the state should handle it, or all the money should go into your own 401k? That I don't know yet.
All right, I want to ask you about the jobs bill. Apparently, the president it's been promised that we're finally going to actually see the language for this bill that he's been asking everybody to pass for several days now. What are you hearing? What do you think we're likely to see?
Oh, listen. I think the bill is in the broad strokes is going to be very similar to what his speech was. Payroll tax cuts, more infrastructure spending, that kind of thing. Of course, that's not going to be the final word in the subject. I imagine the Republicans will have a counterproposal here, and I'm just wondering how much of it was going to accept what the president has to say. I think they'll actually accept a good chunk of it. But I'm also interested in what they're going to want. Are they going to push for this tax holiday for companies so they can bring all their foreign income back to invest it in America? Or are they going to push for some sort of other cuts? That's what I don't know yet. I want to see the Republican counterproposal. I'm actually more interested in that than the language of this bill.
But a certain amount of what the president is proposing, we can all agree, is probably politically a non-starter. It's not going anywhere.
No, I think a lot of the infrastructure spending that's not going to happen. I think the payroll tax cut stuff could happen, maybe unemployment benefits, but the Republicans aren't going to just say, we like this, don't like that. They are going to have a counter offer saying, well, we need to add in this as well. I would be shocked if they didn't do that, since many Republicans think none of the president's ideas are likely to boost the economy somewhat. So if we're going to accept a bunch of ideas that we don't think are going to do a whole lot of good, well, what's the price of admission for those ideas? It's our ideas, which we do think will help. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have a fairly vigorous counteroffer.
Obama's been criticized for offering no particular plans about what to do about the housing industry. HAMP was a terrible failure and continues to be. Is there anything that can be done, or do we just need to find the bottom here?
Well, yeah, you need to do like one or two things. One, you got to find the bottom, which is push banks to work through this huge backlog of homes which are in foreclosure that need to be foreclosed. People can't keep up. That's not really happening. Or B, you really need to get the banks to accept writing down the principal on a lot of these underwater homes. Right. The administration's policy about banks and housing, which are interrelated, has been that we are going to save the banks. We're not going to make the banks suffer. We gave them basically this free loan, these capital injections in TARP, and we're going to keep interest rates really, really low, which is great for bank funding. It's been a very pro-bank policy. Now we're sitting here, and the banks could be in trouble again, depending on what goes on in Europe. So banking and housing are related, and my fear is that the next president might end up with a situation not a whole lot better than what Obama inherited. Again, if we have this sort of financial contagion in Europe spread to America.
Let me see if you believe that this is a problem for Republicans. They may go with the president on some of these tax cuts, like you said, extending the payroll tax for Social Security, slashing it, I guess, another % down to 3%. Credits for businesses as well. But if it doesn't grow the economy, doesn't that add to the deficit? If it's not deficit neutral, is that something the Republicans can rally behind? And or do they look like hypocrites if they get behind these tax cuts that really don't do much for the economy, only just add to the deficit, really?
Well, no, that was sort of the conundrum when they agreed to they originally agreed to this payroll tax cut back in December. A lot of folks, like Paul Ryan said, this stuff isn't really going to work. Right. But the cost, that was the cost of us getting a 2-year extension of all the Bush tax cuts. I mean, it was a compromise. So that's what I'm saying. That for them to accept policies which they don't believe these temporary spending, temporary tax cuts programs work, what are they going to want in return? Certainly, more spending cuts to pay for them, but also their pro-growth policies, whether it's taxes or some sort of regulatory freeze or regulatory cutback. They're not going to. It's not just going to be kind of a binary up and down yes or no vote on this American Jobs Act.
All right, Jimmy. Good to talk to you as always. Appreciate your time and your insights.
All right, thank you.
And Jimmy Pethokoukis from Reuters and CNBC here with the Morning Majority.